Hello, Dubuque County. This is Ray Kruse, your Master Gardener Coordinator and Local Food Systems Program Coordinator with the ISU Extension Outreach Office of Dubuque County. Today, we are talking about seeding carrots. Now, in Dubuque County, one of the biggest challenges in growing carrots is carrot crop establishment. So today, I'm here to show you a few tips that hopefully help you in trying to establish a good carrot crop in your garden. So what we've done here, you can already see, is we have come by and tilled our seed bed today with the tiller just before seeding this morning. And what that does is that sets back any weeds that may have been trying to grow prior to now. It sets them back so that they're not trying to grow along with our carrots. So here's an example of what we had tilled up this morning. And we're trying to set those weeds that are already growing back so that they are no longer living and competing with our carrots that we're trying to establish at this point. So that's the first thing we did, is till the garden. And the second thing we were trying to aim for with tilling the garden was getting ourselves a nice, fine seed bed. And the reason why that's important is because our seeds, which these are carrot seeds here, are very fine, tiny seeds. And they need a really fine soil to kind of be tucked around the seed so that it can access the necessary moisture in order for the seeds to grow. So that's another goal with our tillage, is trying to get a fine seed bed so that our seeds have access to that moisture that they need to grow. The next thing I did was I took my hoe and, I rather took my tined cultivator. So here's my tined cultivator right here. And I also raked back any of these clods that were in the seed furrow here. So you can see on the side closer to out here, we have some bigger clods that I raked out of the seed furrow here that were left behind the tiller. So I did that, and then I also took my hoe and I made a nice little 1/4 to a 1/2 inch trench right here so that our seeds could be seeded right down in there. So now that we've got a nice seed trench established, what we're going to do is, well, first we're going to label our rows. So today we're going to seed a cultivar called Hercules, and they are a Châtenay type carrot, also known as a Danvers type carrot. And they are more suited to growing in our heavier soils in Dubuque County, as opposed to some of the other carrots such as imperators, which don't grow as well in heavier soils. Now, there are another type called Nantes, and they do okay in our soils as well. So, but you really don't want to go with any imperator type carrots. So today we're planting a Hercules, which is a Châtenay type carrot. So I'm going to mark our row here and stick our stake in the ground there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to seed our carrots in the furrow here. And one tool that I find helpful is this little seed dial. They're a little expensive for what they are, but they do help me in trying to ensure that my seeds are evenly spaced and I don't end up dumping a whole lot of seeds at one time down the trench while I'm trying to seed. So this works well for me. If you don't want to buy something like this, you can also use a folded up piece of paper and use that crease and gently tap that piece of paper so that your seeds fall down the crease of the piece of paper to evenly seed them out. So this is something that I find helpful in trying to seed my carrots out. Now, the package recommends for me from the seed grower that my seeds are seeded 3/4 to an inch apart. I like having very nice even rows in my garden all the way down, so I like to seed a little heavy and thin them out. And we're going to aim for a final distance between our carrots of anywhere between 1 to 2 inches based on how big you want your carrots to get. So that's the spacing of our carrots, and that seed dial is something that I find helpful. Once we get our seeds seeded into the trench here, what we're going to do is we're going to nicely just rake over some of that fine soil over our seeds. Now, we don't want to seed them too deep. Remember, we're only going to want to go a 1/2 to a 1/4 inch deep for our little seeds here. And we're going to just cover them all up right here, all the way down the seed furrow here. And that's it. That is seeding our carrots and trying to establish a carrot crop. Now, there are some additional steps that you can take that aren't necessary, but they might be helpful in trying to establish a good stand of carrots. And the first thing is, right after seeding, I'm going to move this aside here, right after seeding your carrots in the furrow, you can come by and give them a nice shot of water. Now, you're going to want to just give them a very light watering. You're not going to want to let the water slosh back and forth within the furrow. So you're going to want to give them a real nice, light watering there, just enough so that those seeds have some immediate moisture and they can get off to a good start. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is to try and keep this moisture in the soil. Now, if we think about this here, over behind us here where this has been tilled at a later date, or earlier date rather, if we dig down 1/4 to 1/2 inch, things are pretty dry down there. And if we think about our carrots being seeded into this furrow 1/4 to 1/2 inch down, they might experience some real intense moisture fluctuations. So what we're going to try and do in this shallow seed furrow here is we're going to try and trap that moisture in there. And one of the things we can do is we can use grass clippings and very lightly sprinkle some grass clippings over top of the furrow to try and keep the moisture in the ground here so that the carrot seeds don't experience the baking from the sun that they might experience without any type of cover on top. Again, this is an optional thing. Now, an important thing with this practice is not getting your grass clippings too thick. We don't want to mulch them to the point where they're not going to be able to come up once they sprout. We just want to sprinkle just a little bit of grass clippings over the top so that they're receiving a little bit of cover. It's the same concept as putting straw down for establishing your lawn to conserve the moisture. Another practice you can do is just take a simple cheap 2x4 from the store and put it right over top of the furrow. So I'm going to set that right here for you to see. Just as simple as that. And what that prevents is it prevents the sun from coming down and baking that soil and keeps that soil moist underneath that 2x4. A very key point with this thing though is to make sure that once you see some action from those carrots starting to sprout is that you take that 2x4 off immediately, because it might inhibit them from growing because they're going to be trying to grow up against that 2x4. So that's really important using this practice. But here are some tips for you in Dubuque County dealing with some heavier soils to try and establish a good carrot crop. Once again, this is Ray Kruse, your Food Systems Program Coordinator and Master Gardener Coordinator with the ISU Extension and Outreach Office of Dubuque County. Happy growing, everybody.